Alton Towers recently opened their brand new ride for 2025, Toxicator, which is pretty much their old ride Ripsaw, but big and green and flipped 90 degrees. And the ride is better than ever, flipping riders over and over again, backwards, forwards, doing front flips or full centrifugal rotations as they call them. And it sits upon a huge concrete plinth, which when you walk under and around it, makes it look huge. I mean, it is so tall that it is actually the world's tallest topspin ride, which I never thought Alton Towers would break a height record. But there we go. Since it opened though, having queued up for this ride and ridden it multiple different times now, I thought it'd be best to give you my full analytical and technical opinion and share my honest thoughts on Toxicator at Alton Towers. Be sure to watch till the end because I've even got some of your guys' reviews to go through, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It'd be greatly appreciated. And guess what I also greatly appreciate? The fact Alton Towers have finally got a new flat ride. It took them a while. And as much as their other flat ride in that same area is now just a pit of nothing, the amount of effort they have gone through to create this brand new ride Toxicator is incredible. Because like with most rides I review on this channel, the story and the review does not start with just the ride experience. It begins with everything beforehand, up to where the tarmac stops and it becomes the old pathway again. Because obviously the ride is part of an entire storylined area of Forbidden Valley, so when you walk into that area and see Nemesis and everything like that, the story has already begun. And I've talked about that before. So other than some green barrels placed around and also some green sludge looking things dropping out of some vents, everything is pretty much the same walking into that area until you reach down opposite the roller coaster restaurant, or just outside Bunker 94, where you are greeted with Sector 97, because Sector 97 is when Ripsaw opened, 1997. So many Easter eggs. I've seen about 4 and there's probably a million. And this is where the ride entrance is off to your left. In front of you is a tunnel that you can go through and go to the other side where the pit of nothing is. And of course, you can look up and see this amazing ride structure that is just so huge. Massive, some would say, with this topspin towering above you. And the first time I saw that when we walked up to it, it just looked insane. Like, I've never seen something so tall at the park. So yeah, the sense of scale and the intimidation tactics they have gone through already, lovely. In the tunnel, you have a few posters and some references to previous rides or just Ripsaw and Nemesis. Can you cut it? And you've got these really nice UV lights that actually change depending on where the ride is in its sequence. Because you do have this decal on the other wall where it's like showing you the process of how they extracted the Nemesis saliva and the fact you're on this machine doing whatever you're doing. You might be the saliva, who knows? But I do love the little things like that. And tell you what isn't little that you can clearly see off ride as well. These huge storage silos that have these screens on the side, which again, whilst the ride is going round, will change and do different things to sort of coincide with the ride cycle. It even has a startup sequence in the morning, a shutdown sequence in the evening where it says, "Good night, Nemesis. Toxicator is a complex beast." And even a sequence that shows someone working in the silos trying to clean stuff and repair it when the ride is broken down. I love stuff like that. Even if the first time we saw the mechanic one was when it pooed itself. But when you're staring at it from this angle, if you go to the left-hand side, not only will you see some dryers that will be useful when it's summer, because my god, you are going to get soaked when it's on its full fountain cycle, but also the entrance to the ride. There's a main entrance, a single rider line, which is very interesting, and seemingly 2 ride access pass queue lines, and maybe one of them switched to fast track. I don't really know. But call me queue line information Dan for a sec. If you're in the single rider line and it is a full line, then you should be waiting around 40 to 50 minutes for that. And the ride access pass queue seems to move 1 group at a time per cycle. So depending on how many groups there are in that queue, that's how long that'll be. That of course means you've already walked under the entrance sign and you can see Toxicator written above, and it looks really cool the way they've done that. And there's a little Ripsaw hint right at the end, a little coil. Or you then enter the queue line. Now of course from the plans we knew this queue line wasn't going to be very big, and if it was big we knew it was going to be very clustered, because my god, when you look at this plan there is no space whatsoever. So as much as what I'm about to go into is a bit of a downside and I'm not a big fan of it, they can't really do anything about it, so it's not really their fault. But Toxicator's queue does run right alongside the other queues. It goes straight down. You've got these wasparium barrels and everything in the sort of fenced off area, just the wood chippings. And you keep on walking down until you reach a huge cattle pen of just multiple back and forth, And yeah, it's not the greatest queue in the world, but the space and the fact that I know they want you to just be able to see the ride instead of going up and over a bridge and blocking the view of everyone walking under it. I understand. So we'll let them off. What probably can't be let off though is partway through the queue line as you sort of go more towards, back down towards the concrete plinth. Obviously the ride has water fountains, and towards the end of the cycle, the ride flips slightly and will chuck water everywhere. I can't imagine how much worse that's going to be when it reaches summer. But getting splashed by water when you're stood still in a queue line isn't that fun, so hopefully they can sort that somehow though. All the decals on the wall saying phalanx and all the different stats on the other side too, that looks really nice. And then you've got this really cool locker area, which I haven't had the chance to look in fully because you do actually move through this queue quite quickly for a flat ride, but I would imagine there are a few Easter eggs in there too. And then you are batched into your 19-person group because there are 2 groups that go upstairs, one of which faces one way and the other faces the other. What? 38 riders per cycle on that ride, so that's why they do that. Heading upstairs, you go up. Whoa, we're excited for this. You make your way to the batching area and you sort of stand on your number, whether you're on the Galactica facing side or the Nothing Pit facing side. It can be a little bit cramped there, but it's not too bad, especially because you're only there for a few minutes, and you can get this really cool side view of the ride going before you actually do step on and ride it yourself. Now, if you have done a top spin before, some of the complaints regarding the seats do very much come from the fact that taller individuals, like myself, often find that the restraints can be a little bit shoulder hurty, and I do get that on the likes of Talican and the older ones. Toxicator is completely fine to me, and that's a big plus because I can actually enjoy the ride and not be like, ugh. So kudos to the manufacturer Huss for that one. But then we get into the actual ride, and I'm going to use my rider cam POV to sort of talk you through it, even if through half of it I'm just shouting, please don't get me wet, and just looking at Nemesis. But as you can see, you strap in like so, although the other seats weren't, and then the floor drops beneath you, and the fountains start raising up and going, oh, we're gonna get you soaked, but they don't when it's colder. And then you enter into one of my favorite parts about this ride, the fact that instead of swinging and randomly just, you know, starting really slow, the first thing you do off the platform is do an entire front flip like this. It's just such a cool way to start the ride. And then you come back up and you level off at the top, which is where in the summer it will probably get you soaked because it does dangle you down each side onto some water fountains. And I really do like that about this. I think the fact that they've sort of catered for both sides, so if you're on either or side, you won't have a disadvantage to getting soaked. And the fact that when you're actually on the other side, not getting soaked, you are just going to be sort of dangling there like, what's happening? I actually think it is a really fun way to start the ride, especially with that front flip as well. Or back flip, depending on which side you sit. So once you're teased by the fountains, you then flip somewhat forwards or backwards, and then you level out at the top again. And then here we go. We should go into our first sequence here, which is really, really fun. As you can see, you sort of dangle down towards the water, and then suddenly, release, there we go. It sounded like Jack Black then in the Minecraft movie. Water bucket, release! But yeah, this is where you actually start flipping over as the ride car and go upside down. There you go. I think it's about 2 flips normally there, and then it starts braking, so you only get a couple flips at the start, but it's a nice little... It gets you going for the rest of the ride. And then after that, you sort of come down towards the ground, you do another like sort of raise up, so you're not flipping this time. And then you begin another part where this time you go the other way and you flip even more. As you can see, we're going down backwards on this side, and then we flip. Here we go. 1 flip, 2 flip, and it should do a 3rd. There we go. And it almost does a 4th, you know. I think the cycle is mostly designed to do about 4 or 5 flips at the minimum. So it's still a lot. Well, to some people, not enough. But for me, I really enjoy how it's not too intense, and I think that is perfect, because then it goes into this backwards dive here. You do another one like that, and then that's the bit that sort of kicks you out, and the water sprays everywhere onto the queue line. And then you do one last rotation back down into the stationary position. See, the thing about that ride is not only just the fact that the flips and everything are really cool, and it's got some good forces, it's quite intense, but not too intense. And also, other than the really cool view of Nemesis that I kept pointing out in this POV, one factor that is amazing, and I was really hoping for when they built it, was an audio piece or a soundtrack that would go with the ride and sort of say certain things as you do them. So for instance, with this one, you do some of those big forward dive flips and also the actual individual flips as well. You do them whilst it says like centrifugal rotation, and it says like, oh, we're pushing in stuff from compound. I just love the fact that it all ties into Forbidden Valley really well with the sort of voice and everything, and also it's all about this machine working, and they're talking about the processes when you're actually going around on it. I mean, it even says Toxicator active when it starts. You then exit off the platform to the other side and go down some stairs to the exit and just sort of, you know, go out to the plaza where you started. Sure, it could do with 1 or 2 more flips, but I feel like at that point you're becoming too intense and some people wouldn't want to ride it. So I think having that 4, 5 or 6 flip sort of minimum is a really good starting point. I'm quite thankful for that because I think I'd throw up otherwise. I much prefer the fact that you can face either direction. Which way do I prefer? I'd say probably Galactica's side, but that's because I've been on that side more, and I just really enjoy it, especially at night. Because not only do you have the screens working overtime and doing all this stuff and it looks really cool, but the lighting as well changes with the ride cycle, and it's like flashes red and everything, and obviously it's bright green anyway. All the water looks lime green as well. I love how it looks at night. I think it looks incredible. Genuinely makes you think, where the hell are we going when you're flipping upside down in the dark? But before I give my final ranking, I am going to give your ranking, because I put out a community post asking for your guys' opinions so we could sort of come to a collective agreement on our ranking. And we got loads of different replies here. We have, I found it more dizzy than sickening, which is good for me. The theming and sounds are awesome, a much needed permanent flat ride. Completely agree. It was my first top spin and I have to say that I loved it. That's really cool to hear. I expected it to be a bit more intense than it was, but I still really enjoyed it. The theming looks great too. See, this is the thing, like they've struck that middle ground where there's some people saying that it could have spanned more, some people saying that it spins too much. I've said this about 5 times. Everything down to the theme and the ride experience is set out so perfect. The only problem I have is just how loud the squeak is when you are near the ride. Oh my god, that's so true. It seemed okay on opening day, like it was quite loud, but it wasn't ear deafening. Since then, it's become so much worse. You can hear it from the car parks just going and doing its whole pressure sound thing of yeah, maybe they could put some WD-40 on that thing, because my Christ, it makes a noise. The man cleaning the tank when it breaks is legendary. See, I told you, the man in the tank cleaning and, you know, repairing the ride. Iconic. It's a bit spinny, but I really enjoyed it. The theatre of the ride is really cool. Yeah, definitely, I agree. Gonna ride it on Sunday. Definitely one of the more tolerable top spins. I hope you have a good time, GLaDOS fan. Pretty green. I was terrified, but it wasn't as bad as it looks. You spin me right round. Yeah. Gave me whiplash. 10 out of 10 would ride again. You know, there's just so many different reviews here that are like, it's really good to see people enjoying that ride. But no, I really enjoy it too, which is why I'm going to give it a ranking of 9 out of 10. If you haven't ridden it already, I recommend it because it is a lot of fun. Even if you don't like spinning too much, it's basically the same as flipping upside down on a roller coaster, just not as much if you compare it to the Smiler. And if you can visit at a time where it is open late and you can ride it at night, do that as well because it is incredible at night. It really does come alive at that point. With that being said, if you want to, leave your thoughts down below on what you think of Toxicator and what you think of my thoughts on Toxicator. And also be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Good night.